Hey, good morning everyone. It's Tim Holtz and I'm here at Creativation 2020 in the Ranger booth, and I'm going to give you your own private tour of what's new with Tim Holtz and Ranger. Come on, check it out. So of course, anytime we have a trade show, we really want to highlight the product, not only show you what it looks like in the package, but what it looks like when it's used. So these are the new Distress Embossing Glazes. These are translucent embossing powders. They come in 12 of the Distress colors, and here's what they look like. Check out these swatch boards. We do so much cool display when it comes to a show, and this shows the colors when they are melted over a stamped image, which really highlights that image underneath. You can also see those colors used like on an Ideology baseboard doll. And the nice thing about the embossing glazes, they are translucent powders, so when they melt you can see through that image below it. And I like to use these glazes because you can use them to tint different things, everything from papers to metals to glass, of course chipboard, anything like that. But if you just take a look at how they coordinate. Now up here at the top, archivals, nothing new at this show, but just seeing those colors in action, you really appreciate the entire line in the collection that Ranger does, because of course bringing out your favorite products in distressed colors, well, there's nothing better than that, really, in my opinion, nothing better than that. So some other things that of course we have with the embossing glazes, some different ways that we can attach those powders, right? We have our distress embossing ink pad, which we have, but we also have the embossing dabber. This is the same ink, but it's in a dabber bottle, and that's going to allow you to go around chipboard, the edges of cards, books, anything like that to attach the powder. And then of course the embossing pens. This is embossing ink in a pen form, so you can go and color those paper dolls or do any of your lettering and adhere those glazes and then go ahead and melt them, which is nice. Of course you can see the displays anytime we see all the colors together. Well, that just brings total happiness. But then down to the inks, we've got our oxides and our inks, but take a look at this guy, our Distress ink pad storage tin. So this holds 15 of the traditional Distress ink or Distress oxide pads. You can store these vertical, horizontal, however you want, because the tin has an insert that will not only hold the pads separate, but also attach and secure the lid to the base to make an airtight storage option, which is perfect, especially for us makers, right? So come over here and check out all of the different mediums when it comes to working with distress. You know, we can never have too many different textures and mediums. So of course, up here our texture paste, the matte and crackle paste. Now matte and crackle paste, this is part of the Ranger line, but now it is also part of the Distress line. They brought it in. We created a slightly smaller bottle because art mediums have a tendency to dry up if we don't use them. And let's face it, as makers, well, we're really not that great of using everything right away. So we've got you covered. We also have some grit paste. We have it opaque and translucent, and I'll walk around in just a minute and show you the swatches of how those products are in action. Of course, we've got some new cardstock, the cracked leather cardstock. This is a 111-pound textured cardstock that you can use your inks, sprays, oxides, anything like that. So take a look at these surfaces over here. This is what's really nice. This is what that cracked leather cardstock looks like, right? This is white, and this just shows with ink, crayon, and a little bit of paint. Looks totally real, right? And of course, we have all of these other surfaces too. The wood grain cardstock that we can use our crayons, oxides, paints. My favorite, Distress watercolor cardstock. We have the heavy stock, we have mixed media heavy stock, specialty stamping, so many great surfaces, because with Ranger, in addition of course to having inks and paints, we also want great structures. So if you look down here, we've got our collage mediums, we have matte, we have vintage, which has a light tint, of course crazing, that's going to give you a nice crackle. Now if you want crazing, the easiest way to apply a crazing collage medium is with a palette knife. I found that if you apply it with a palette knife, you get just enough on the surface to create a really nice crazing effect. Really cool, right? Then of course grit paste. So grit paste, this is the new translucent grit paste, and the benefit of having a translucent grit is that when you apply it over something printed like background papers, you get that realistic rust texture, but you can also see the image coming through it versus our original opaque, which of course has a white base, so you can't see through it, but it still makes perfect snow effects or icy effects. Then down here you see the crackle paste. This is an opaque crackle. So you can apply it with a palette knife or your finger around the edges of things and tint it with crayons, ink, paint, or oxide. And of course our matte. And what makes the matte texture paste so wonderful is that not only is it porous, so when it dries you can go in and add your inks, oxides, anything, and the color will soak in, but you can also use it for embossing. So when that paste is wet, you can put any of your embossing powders over it, heat emboss it, and take a look at that. That is just a white texture paste embossed with gold powder. How cool. So that is, to me, what I love about working with Ranger. They have such a unique way of taking products and pulling them all together and giving you a complete assortment, not only just color, but anything new to the world of distress. Thanks.